What is up, guys? It is the Sound Alchemist, and today I'm back to bring you 40 facts on the Warhammer 40k universe. As always, we're here today to learn about the lore of the Chaos Gods. If you guys haven't noticed, we've done one on Khorne, one on Slaanesh, and then one on Nurgle. And now it's come to Tzeentch. So we've done these the past 4 days, so check them out if you haven't. Pretty awesome stuff. With Tzeentch, he's one of my favorites. I used to hate psychic abilities. I thought, oh, if you're not fighting with your fists, you're not giving it your all, putting everything you've got into it. But now that I think about it, psychic powers are really kind of an extension of yourself, but you're getting this energy through other ways, being the warp. And with the warp influencing your abilities, it's like you're yourself, but on a whole nother level, so to speak. And you've got like tons of abilities that you can use, for example like warp fire, teleportation, telekinesis, and it just gets crazy with the Warhammer 40k universe. Anyway guys, I've spoken a little bit too much on Tzeentch, and I know you guys are here for the lore. So without further ado, let's learn a little bit more about the forces of this Chaos God. Let's begin with the Tzaangors. So the Tzaangors are a subtype of beastmen, and they are dedicated to the Chaos God of Tzeentch. They are considered natives of the planet of sorcerers, despite that world being uninhabited until the arrival of the Thousand Suns. It is recorded that over many thousands of years, the planet of sorcerers has become inhabited with a number of humans both directly employed by the Thousand Suns and those that live beyond the Wild Towers. As a result of the Chaos Space Marine Legion's habit of kidnapping mortals, they have become exposed to the warp, so to say. Those that have escaped the thraldom of sorcerers of the Thousand Suns over the years have since created the free population on the planet, although all these individuals are still slaves to Tzeentch's plans. Amongst these unbonded groups exist the Tzaangors. It is unknown if they originate from beastmen transplanted to the planet like ordinary humans, or whether they are a result of mutations so favored by the planet's patron. Nevertheless, they exist in enough numbers for the Thousand Suns to be able to use them as a source from which to recruit the guardians of their towers. The Thousand Suns appear to value the use of beastmen in this role and treat them quite well. Few make any attempt to escape and return to the warbands where they began their life. The Blue Scribes of Tzeentch. The Blue Scribes are two blue horrors named Pitarix and Tzeentch, who have been tasked by Tzeentch to learn every spell in existence. And for each in-spell lies a lost fragment of Tzeentch that he wishes to reclaim to ensure his ultimate dominance in the great game with the other Chaos Gods, as well as gaining dominion over all of creation. The Scribes ride the discs of Tzeentch through the realms of mortal and demon, binding the lost fragments of their god in parchment and ink. Tzeentch has bestowed the extra intelligence of the Scribes with safeguards against betrayal. Pitarix can transcribe the syllables of magic spells into profane chaos runes and glyphs, but he cannot read his own writings. Tzeentch can read his brother's scrawls, but cannot understand them. Because of this, they are able to cast spells by reading each other's scrawls, but they can't predict which spell he's going to cast. Thus, the Blue Scribes create havoc in combat as they unleash a barrage of random psychic effects on any who threaten them. And now, we talk about the Changeling. The Changeling is a demon that personifies the part of Tzeentch's psyche that is the meddler, the deceiver, the trickster. He can take the form of other beings, from the tiniest of insects to the most massive of greater demons. None, except perhaps Tzeentch himself, knows the Changeling's true form, for he goes cowled and cloaked when in his own shape. Perhaps even the Changeling himself does not know what his true form is. Maybe he has forgotten it. Not only can the Changeling mirror the form of another, but he can adopt mannerisms and personalities so flawless that even the dark gods can be deceived. In all of creation, there is only one entity that the Changeling cannot duplicate, and that is the great god Tzeentch himself. The Grand Schemer will not suffer any being to steal his identity, not even for a moment. If you guys want more lore on the Changeling, we do have a 40 facts on him, and I believe a story featuring the Grey Knights, so go to our channel and check it out. The Pink Horrors. Tzeentch creates almost all of them as cheerful, madly blabbling pink horrors. Apart from their bright coloration, pink horrors are also notable for their madly happy demeanor. Their constantly emitted noises of almost ecstatic excitement give rise to the other two names by which they are sometimes known, the Squealer and the Screamer. Just like other demons of Tzeentch, they are capable of sorcery. Depending on the might of a horror, the sorcery can range from the common hurling of warped flames or bolts of change, to more exotic powers, such as the creation of arcane items from their bodies, or the manipulation of mortal minds by imitating strange shapes and musical instruments. The most powerful of horrors belong to the ranks of the demonic heralds, some of which ride the burning chariots of Tzeentch. The Blue Horror. A pink horror sometimes splits itself into two smaller blue horrors when its body is destroyed. While these two are just as powerful as their former pink self, blue horrors tend to squabble endlessly amongst themselves, as their cheerful nature is reversed with the splitting, their principal character traits being sadness and incessant whining. Just like a pink horror, sometimes a slain blue horror will split once more into a pair of brimstone horrors. Named for a stench so strong it offends even other demons, these diminutive, warped creatures may look bright and whimsical, but they are in truth spiteful and vindictive. They realize that the glories of authority and prominence are forever beyond them. To make themselves feel better, they burn everything they come across by hurling magical flame. To a brimstone horror, warp fire is the great leverer. Those that try to extinguish them or stamp them out are quickly surrounded. The brimstone horrors join hands in an incandescent ring around them, and they sing mocking songs as they turn their victims into nothing but ash. The Thrall Wizards. The Thrall Wizards are the sorcerous mortal servants of the Thousand Suns Chaos Space Marine Legion, drawn from the inhabitants of the planet of sorcerers. When the Thousand Suns arrived in their new homeworld after their escape from the razing of Prospero, they found it to be uninhabited. Over the many thousands of years since that time, the Thousand Suns have brought so many captives back with them from raids out into the galaxy that the planet of sorcerers now possesses a sizable, non-legionary population. From this population are drawn the Thrall Wizards. Psychically or sorcerously inclined individuals are prized by the Thousand Suns, and many such mortals captured by them may find themselves bonded to a Thousand Suns sorcerer as an arcane assistant. Even the most ignorant humans can find a home in the ranks of the Thrall Wizards, as if a sorcerer's Thrall Wizard band is large enough, they can be apprenticed into a Thrall champion, in order to learn the simplest sorcerer's tasks required by their masters, and they provide supporting battle magic. In this way, they can begin a career that may lead to becoming a fully fledged wizard in their own right, and perhaps further, for some Chaos Champions, and even Demon Princes of Tzeentch are said to have been Thralls once, and many are unfortunate enough to become Chaos Spawn. The Cult of the Severed Tongue. After demons robbed the populace of Sundays of speech, this cult rose to supremacy. Its debased members tortured and killed men and women with no voices to scream. For a year after the cult reigns without opposition, turning the planet into a silent hell where corpses rot in the streets, and men and women live like vermin in the shadows, fearful of making the slightest sound that will give them away. The Grey Knights confronted this cult as Sudal stands on the verge of utter destruction, its cities completely given over to worshipping the very demons that orchestrated their ruin. In the empty silence, the only sounds to be heard are the bark of stormbolters and the crackle of warp force weapons, as the Grey Knights purify the planet and annihilate any and all in their path. And finally, let's get a little bit more information on the Tzeentchian Lords of Change. The Lords of Change, aka the Watching Lords of Change, or the Eyes of Tzeentch, are the greater demons of Tzeentch. They are the most powerful servants of their master, and they are in many ways essentially minor embodiments of all the characteristics of Tzeentch. They are renowned for their long-running and intricate schemes that weave across time and fate. Lords of Change can access Tzeentch's very own reserves of wisdom, and for essentially being expressions of his cunning, which gives them great power, they are said to possess the attitude of wicked children, playful yet mischievous, and sometimes they find delight in manipulating others. Nothing is more pleasing to a Lord of Change than to break open fate and reshape it, by manipulation of individuals or direct action. Even without access to Tzeentch's knowledge of fate, they are said to be deeply intelligent and understanding of all of life's mysteries. Lords of Change typically do not engage in direct battle. This is not due to cowardice or any other emotion irrelevant to a demon of the warp, but because it interests them more to direct the forces of combat from afar, guiding or even ordering combatants rather than fighting themselves. Because of this, it is not unknown for Lords of Change to possess powerful underlings, bands of horrors, or even chaos champions of their own. Nevertheless, they are potential deadly opponents, even without the vast sorcerer's abilities. Their knowledge of fate and the future makes them appear to be undefeated in battle. Often appearing multicolored in hue, Lords of Change actually have no default coloration and take whatever shades please them at any given time. Lords of Change typically choose to appear physically frailer than they actually are, taking on wasting forms, and they usually use staffs to hold themselves up and walk around. This is one of their trademark deceptions, as Lord of Change possess iron-hard skin and blindingly fast reflexes, as well as sharp claws and beaks. Their interest in wisdom also endows them with the ability to draw the knowledge of all known fighting techniques and battle strategies in the universe. Essentially impossible creatures, few who gaze on these warp-light energies emerge with their sanity oftentimes unintact. That is the true power of the Lords of Change of Tzeentch. And with that, we end the lore for today. Let me know what you guys thought about this Tzeentchian forces. In your opinion, do you like warp powers and sorcery and magic and all that? Or do you prefer Khorne and his bloodlust? Also, if you guys have a Tzeentch army, I'd like to know what the composition of it, because if I were to run one, it'd probably be most likely Magnus at the front with a few thousand suns, and then I'd have some Lords of Change. I really like the models for it, especially the brand new one that came out. Really awesome sculpts, very intricate details they have here. So that'd be my Tzeentchian army, kind of an elite force. Now that I think about it, most of my armies tend to be pretty elitist. So I guess Horde armies aren't for the Sound Alchemist. That's more a Gersh's thing. Anyway guys, thank you for listening in. This concludes the 4 Chaos Gods. I still have one more Chaos God that I want to cover extra in tomorrow's video, so stay tuned for that. As always guys, I am the Sound Alchemist. Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Patreon. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.